All righty. Okay. The date. December 12th, 1926. The time. It wasn't Monday Night Football. I can tell you that much. Probably at 2:15 p.m. The teams. The Philadelphia Quakers of the AFL. Oh, yeah. The first and original AFL versus the New York Giants of the NFL. The place. The Polo Grounds, baby, in New York. This was like an end of the season. Both teams' seasons were over. Long story here. So if you sit down, if you're a little tired, maybe grab a pillow, get comfortable. You might be taking a nap by the time this is over with. We got a lot to talk about here. No, hold on. Let me move the chair for my good boy here. My buddy in here, Randy. It's just not a video if my buddy Randy's not here. All right, buddy. Okay, Randy's here. We can continue. All right. So, meanwhile, back at the ranch, in 1925, Red Grange, the AFL, it's all his fault. The first AFL, it's all his fault. Well, most of it. He was leaving school, Illinois. The Thanksgiving Day game in November was his final game at Illinois. And he was good. He was really good. Let me tell you what. When he came out, he had a manager, C.C. Pyle. Most called him Cash and Carry Pyle. George Hallis also called him Cold Cash Pyle. He had a couple different nicknames, but he was the manager of Red Grange. They wound up, they split, I believe it was 60-40. Red Grange got 60% of the money that, his manager could get for him. And out of C.C. Pyle's 40% that he got, he would take money out of his own pocket to, for Red Grange for traveling and stuff like that. So, Red Grange got, obviously the lion's share of the money. But after the season was over, it was Red Grange, he drew a lot of people. So therefore, he was worth a lot of money. After the season was over with, his manager, C.C. Pyle, went into Yankee Stadium and leased out the stadium for 5 years because they had made a lot of money. And so they were able to do things like that, lease out Yankee Stadium. So then when the teams had like a meeting, I believe it was in February of 26, like the league meeting of the owners and all that, after the season was over with, C.C. Pyle went into the meeting. This is in 1926, and he wanted a franchise in the NFL. He said, I just leased out Yankee Stadium for 5 years. I would like a franchise in the NFL. And when they turned him down, basically because what it was Tim Mara and the Giants, our Giants, our beloved Giants, were at the Polo Grounds. Well, basically, if you ever see like an aerial view of what the Polo Grounds were and where Yankee Stadium was, Tiger Woods could probably pull out like a 9-iron and hit a golf ball from Polo Grounds. It was just across the river. It was close. And you couldn't have, or back then they had territorial rights because seats or attendance, or shall I say paying customers back then, was everything. It's not like it is today where almost every stadium sells out all the time. And, they're making money hand over fist. The beer is $500. You want a bottle of water at $7,000. It's $8 trillion to park. It wasn't like that back then. You needed paying customers. Okay. And it was huge. So the thing is for him to lease a stadium, C.C. Pyle, so close to where the Giants played, that infringed upon the territorial rights of the Giants. So Mr. Mara said, no, I'm not sharing. He lost money he almost lost money as it was. It was one game that turned the whole season around. But anyway. But he's like, I'm not gonna, I had a hard time making any money at all was in 1925 without competition. Now I'm going to have somebody in Yankee Stadium hundreds of feet away. I'm going to be competing for the same people. I'm going to get half the crowds and all that. I'm going to lose even more money. So no. And, Joe Carr, agreed. He said, no, you can't. You've been infringing upon the territorial rights of the Giants. I mean, he should have came in and said, I got Ray Grange. He's a draw. I would like my own franchise, please, in the NFL. What do you say, guys? And I'm sure they would have said, oh, yeah, because they wanted Red Grange, because Red Grange drew people, paying people, and everybody be making money. And, if he said, okay, where can I go, guys? Right? And if they could have came to some kind of, they could have put him in maybe, someplace where there was a big stadium, maybe in Washington, D.C., where the Redskins are at, or up in Boston, or, right? Anywhere but right next to the Polo Grounds. But, he just, before he asked if he could have a team in New York in the NFL, he went out and leased the Yankee Stadium. So since they said no, he's like, so Cash and Carry Powell's like, well, I leased out Yankee Stadium for 5 years. I made a lot of money last season with Red Grange, my guy. We're still together, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to form my own football league, and I'm going to rival your football league, the NFL. Right? And they couldn't stop him. So what Cash and Carry Powell did was he formed a 9-team league. The original AFL only lasted one season, 1926, wound up being a very bad idea. Out of those 9 teams, only 4 of them were in existence at the end of the season. The Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan was on the team. Just kidding. The Los Angeles Wildcats, who were a very good team. The New York Yankees and the Philadelphia Quakers were the only 4 teams left in the AFL by the end of the season. The other 5 teams folded because they financially. We'll go over some of the other teams. But basically, the Los Angeles Wildcats and the Chicago Bulls were like traveling teams. And a lot of the reason why they were still around at the end of the season was because Cash and Carry Powell, CC Powell, was able to keep them going, pay. So the other 5 teams folded. All right. So at the end of this 1926 season, it was just 4 teams left, and the Philadelphia Quakers were the champions. They had a record of 8-2. They had the best winning percentage of 800. And very interestingly, it just goes to show you how good of a coach the Giants had in 1925. Their coach in 1925 for just the 1 year, their inaugural season, was Bob Folwell. Very, very good, successful coach in college. I believe it was Washington and Jefferson. He had them like from 1912 to 1915. 1 or 2 of those years, I think they were undefeated, or 1 year they had 1 tie or something. They were like Washington and Jefferson was known as like a football powerhouse for a few seasons there. He was also at the Naval Academy. He was 4 different colleges, and pretty much everywhere he went, he was very successful. But he was like the Bill Parcells kind of thing. After Parcells left the Giants, he was with the Patriots for like 3 years. I think he was with the Jets for 3 years, and he was with the Cowboys for like 3 years. So he was places. Every place he went, he had a touch of gold. He turned the teams around and all that, made them contenders and this, that, and the other. But he was only there for a short period of time. Well, Bob Folwell was very good in college. He was only at places for only a few years, 3-4 years or so. He got some good production from his players. They had some good records. But he was only at each place for a few years, 3-4 years. Well, I believe it was December of 24, he left Navy. The Giants signed him. So Bob Folwell was the head coach of the New York Football Giants in 1925, just for 1 season. After the season was over with, Cash and Carry Powell got him to come over, because Chicago, he was trying to get the best of, who can I get, right, to jump ship from the NFL to the AFL, and he paid people because he made a lot of money, so he was able to afford to pay a lot of these people. So Bob Folwell, coached the Philadelphia Quakers, and they won the championship. As I said, again with a record of 8-2. Let's see. Now they were. Let's see. They lost. The Quakers lost one game 3-0 to the Chicago Bulls, and the other game they lost 23-0 to the Yankees. Other than that, they won every other game. Yeah, so they wound up the record of 8-2. Very, very good. The Giants had just finished their season the week prior. They had a game on December 5th, 1926. It was supposed to be at home in the Polo Grounds against the Chicago Bears. However, a snowstorm came through and basically made the field unplayable. So the Bears showed up, and Tim Mara went into the dressing room and explained to George Halas how it was kind of unplayable, everything. And, and they had just played a game the day before. Okay, they played a game the day before on Saturday against the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets, because the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets, back then, there was the blue laws in Philadelphia. You couldn't play games in Philadelphia on Sunday. It was like the day of the Sabbath. You can't play, can't have fun. You could play baseball on Sunday. You couldn't play football on Sunday. So, so the Bears came in on December 5th, the week prior to this game, and they were tired. So for them to maybe put on a good football game, they were tired. I'm sure the Giants were a good team in 1926. They finished 8-4-1. The Bears were a very good team, but they were tired. They played a tough game the day before. They just lost a very tough game. The game they lost wound up costing them the championship in 1926. They lost 7-6 on a missed extra point. That missed extra point cost them the championship. So never get the feeling that a special teams isn't important. So because of a missed extra point, the Chicago Bears lost the 1926 championship. Anyway, they came to the Giants the Polo Grounds to play the Giants the very next day on December 5th. The game, Tim Mara went in and explained to George Halas how the field was unplayable. And, George Halas, okay. But he's like, what about our guaranteed money? See, basically what it was if the visiting team showed up back then, they were guaranteed so much money. Now, apparently, what I was reading, the Bears were guaranteed $3,000 just to show up. I mean, they're traveling, right? They're guaranteed they're going to pay their players and all of this, right? So what wound up working was that in the long run, they wound up just agreeing on just being paid $2,000. So the Giants, that game, obviously never happened. They did a video on that one. I did almost an hour long video on a game that got canceled. But so the Giants finished their season 8-4-1. Very respectable. 1925, they finished the season at 8-4. So the first two seasons, they did very, very good. 1927 would be a fantastic season for the Giants, as it would finish 11-1-1 and win their first championship. After this video here, I'm going into the 1927 season, so I'm going to start doing the Giants' first championship season ever. All right, 11-1-1, very good season. But after the season was over with, Tim Mara, all right, some stuff I was reading, he was kind of a little pissed off at C.C. Pyle, right? For basically because the Giants lost money in the 1926 season. And a lot of it was because of the AFL. They were taking away fans from the Giants, right? So he's a little pissed off at him. So Tim Mara challenged C.C. Pyle. His team was the New York Yankees, the football team, to a game. C.C. Pyle said no, But basically, the reason why was because they were playing a game. They're playing a game, the final game of the season against the Chicago Bulls on December 12th. So the Yankees, so it was going to be possibly be the Yankees versus the Giants in a head-to-head clash to see who was the better team. Right? Probably drew a lot of people, but Tim Mara asked, and the Yankees said no. But they were playing a game that day. So they had a good point. So what wound up happening was Tim Mara wound up asking, talking to the Quakers. What's up, buddy? Dang, I lied. Oh, yeah. I'm up. You're up, I'm up. Can't believe I caught a Giants draft. Looks solid. Free agency, I think you got best thing in the NFC East. Do the men have a chance at the division with Jones? Well, we'll have to wait and see. I'll have to wait and see if Jones can even stay healthy. So your guess is as good as mine. I thought we were going to do pretty good last season, and that season went in the dumper real fast. Let me tell you what, real fast. But so Tim Mara, he challenged the Philadelphia Quakers, who wound up winning the AFL 1926, and they agreed. So they agreed to play at the Polo Grounds on December 12th, 1926. And not many people showed up. The weather wasn't very good. As I read some of these articles, we'll find out, a little bit more about the crowd and all, but there wasn't many people that showed up. The weather was not very good. Actually, it was interesting. I think the Quakers actually challenged the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. Frankfurt Yellow Jackets in 1926 won the NFL. The Philadelphia Quakers won the AFL. So that when I was reading that the Quakers challenged the Yellow Jackets. They're both in Philadelphia. Let's have a football game against one another. But apparently, from what I was reading on Wikipedia, is that the NFL said no, we're not going to have a game between the two teams. I don't know why. That's what I read in Wikipedia. But they said no to that game, but they let the Giants and the Quakers play one another. So which wound up being the NFL and the AFL anyway. So the Giants of the NFL played against the champion Philadelphia Quakers of the AFL. The 1926 season for the AFL only lasted one season. That was it. So because they had 9 teams, 5 of them folded. So let me go over the 9 teams here. I got them here. Yeah. The Quakers, the Philadelphia Quakers, the New York Yankees, the Cleveland Panthers, the Los Angeles Wildcats, the Chicago Bulls without Michael Jordan, the Boston Bulldogs, the Rock Island Independents, the Brooklyn Horsemen, and the Newark Bears. Out of those 9 teams, only 4 teams were left at the end of the season. It was the Philadelphia Quakers, the New York Yankees, the Los Angeles Wildcats, and the Chicago Bulls were the only 4 teams. All the other 5 teams folded. And the last game of the season was in week 12. The New York Yankees played against the Chicago Bulls. Actually, the game was played. Okay, the game was played. It looks like the game was played on December 13th. Looks like it was played the day after this game here. So, but the Yankees they said no because they were playing a game against the Chicago Bulls. So, however you want to look at it, the Giants challenged the Quakers, and the Quakers said yes. And so on December 12th, 1926, the Philadelphia Quakers and the New York Giants met each other. It was actually, if you look in Wikipedia, it's called the AFL NFL Challenge Game. The New York Giants would just kill the Quakers 31-0. Now, here in Wikipedia, it's December 14th, 1926, which is wrong. It was December 12th, 1926. So they have the date wrong there. this one. Let's see. Yeah, Sunday, December 12th, 1926. The Philadelphia Quakers and the New York Giants faced each other. It was an AFL NFL challenge. So I got a lot of articles here to read. Got a couple articles from Philadelphia, but I got quite a few of them from New York here too. So the first one I got is from the New York Times. All right, it says there's only 5,000 people were there. It says the football Giants win fray in snow. So basically, it was wasn't like a blinding snowstorm, but it was snowing out. The Giants led 3-0 at half, and they won 31-0. It says National Leaguers push over 2 touchdowns on passes, hold rivals to 1 first down. So the Philadelphia Quakers only got 1 first down in this game. It says the New York Giants, who stand 7th in the National League ratings, subjected the Philadelphia Quaker, champions of the American Football League, to a 31-0 trouncing yesterday afternoon at the Polo Grounds. A crowd of 5,000 turned out to see football's farewell flourish in New York. The Gridiron presented a novel appearance. The groundkeepers had managed to clear off the surplus snow, but a thin coating still remained. Where the snow had disappeared, there was either ice or mud in its place. The usual chalk lines gave way to markings of mud. Despite the fact that they themselves could not move the ball past midfield, the Philadelphians gave the Giants a stern battle for the first half, which closed at 3-0, and McBride having kicked a field goal. In the final periods, the Giants marched straight down the field for a touchdown, and as soon as the ball was kicked off, journeyed for another score. Not content with 17-0, the New Yorkers added another pair of touchdowns before they closed their scoring activities for the day. McBride intercepted a Quaker pass, and Voss stepped in the way of another errant heave for 2 tallies. That would be Tilly Voss. They had some interesting names back there. Tilly Voss. The New York Line held the American League champions to 1 first down during the entire game. Wow. Haggerty for the Giants ran back 1 kick, 65 yards for an apparent score, only to have a penalty nullified his brilliant dash. Jack McBride of the Giants galloped for 52 yards and another dash, which ended behind the goal line. A penalty here also discounted this run. So the Giants had 2 other touchdowns that were taken back due to penalty. So score could have possibly been even worse. In the third quarter, Haggerty of the Giants and McBride clicked off for 4 first downs to place the ball on the 5-yard line. McBride skidded into the snowbank behind the goalpost for a touchdown. No sooner had the ball been kicked off than Haggerty made 13 yards. Kopish added 13 yards for the Giants, and McBride slid for another 15. McBride and Hinkie Haynes of the Giants made another first down, and Haggerty skated over for the touchdown. McBride intercepts a pass. To close the third session, the Giants punted to the 5-yard line, and the Quakers took the ball at this spot. Sullivan of the Quakers' pass was intercepted by McBride, who went 15 yards for a score. After the kickoff, a New York pass was intercepted, but the Giants retaliated when Tilly Voss caught Sullivan's throw at the 35-yard line and sprinted for the final touchdown. So the Giants kicked a field goal in the first quarter, 2 touchdowns in the third quarter, 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to make the final score 31-0. I mean, just really, they opened up a can of a good old butt whooping here on the team from Philadelphia. All right, next one I got here. All right, we got, let's see. Giant Pro 11 swamps the Quakers. Now, this goes to show you how things are, but I'm positive there was 5,000 people, only 5,000 people there. This thing here, it shows 15,000 spectators see the local Gridman triumph by 31-0 score. I really believe there's only 5,000 people there due to the snow. Now, this one here is from the Daily News. All right, let's see. All I got. Is this it? Nope. All right, well, let's start here. Okay. The inner city battle was fought on a gridiron that was mostly a great cake of ice. High heaps of snow were banked all around the sides of the field, but the unfavorable playing conditions seemed not to affect the Giants, who pushed the American League champions all over the field. The Giants scored first in the opening period when Jack McBride registered they don't call it field goals back then. It was a placement kick from the 25-yard line. In the third period, the Giants' attack was irresistible. Following one march, 50 yards, Jack McBride plunged 3 yards through center for a touchdown. 5 minutes later, another 50-yard drive terminated successfully when Jack Haggerty raced around right end for a touchdown. In the fourth period, Tilly Voss intercepted a pass and sprinted 35 yards for a touchdown. Shortly after, McBride intercepted another Philadelphia pass and ran 20 yards for the fourth touchdown. Now, in the other article, I think it had it backwards. It had McBride intercepted a pass and Tilly Voss caught the last interception. So it says 15,000 spectators watched the inner city game and were amazed at the ease which the Giants gained through the Quakers. Now, once again, everything I read, except for this one article, said there was only 5,000 people there. We have the starting lineups here. The left end for the Giants was Voss, Tilly Voss. Steve Owen was the Giants' left tackle. He would be the Giants' head coach from 1931 to 1953. Alexander was the left guard. Biggs was the Giants' center. Nesser was their right guard. Babe, I got you. Babe Parnell was the right tackle for the Giants. Murtaugh was the right end. Palm was the quarterback. Cowboy Hill was the left halfback. Haggerty was the right halfback, and Jack McBride was the fullback for the Giants. For the Quakers, Tully was their left end. Their left tackle was Milstead. Their left guard was Crowther. Their center was Robinson. Their right guard was Spagna. Their right tackle was Fay. Thomas was their right end. Scott was their quarterback. Elliott was their left halfback. Ford was their right halfback. And Dinsmore was their fullback. Now we got, substitutes. Hinkie Haynes went in for Palm. Coppish went in for Hill. Williams went in for Nesser. Hill went back in for McBride. Palm went back in for Haynes. And Griggs went in for Palm. For the Quakers, Costos went in for Fay. Coleman went in for Crowther. Way went in for Scott. Sullivan went in for Ford. Cruez, looks like, went in for Elliott. Crowther went in for Spagna. And Elliott went in for Cruez. And Fay went in for Coleman, and Carton went in for Robinson. So there was a lot of substitution. That's an awful lot of substitutions for a game. But once again, it was a challenge. It wasn't like a life or death situation or anything like that. But of course, both teams wanted to obviously wanted to win. Let's see, and then I got what's this one from? Okay, so this is from the Philadelphia kind of perspective, the Philadelphia point of view. All right. Philadelphia Inquirer. New York Giants crush Quaker 11, 31-0. American League grid champions prove easy for National Warriors. See, this one says there was only 5,000 fans there. The New York Giants football team proved to be too strong for the Philadelphia Quakers American League team here today, and the latter was overwhelmed by a 31-0 score before 5,000 fans. Jack McBride, former Syracuse star, was easily the outstanding player in the battle. In addition to scoring 2 touchdowns, he kicked a field goal and made 4 extra points. They say he made 4 points after touchdown. His line bucking was brilliant, and the Quakers seemed unable to bring him to earth. The field was covered with a light mantle of snow, and this made the use of the forward passes and the end runs a daring procedure. The Philadelphians made only one first down, and nearly all of their passes were either intercepted or grounded. They could not seem to get going. Tully alone played up to his usual standard. Milstead was in the thick of things also. Now, Milstead, interestingly, played for the Giants the year before. But few plays were pointed in Milstead's direction. The Giants seemed content to concentrate on the other side of the line, as it was the weaker. Gains through the side were made almost at will. Two of the Giants' touchdowns came as the result of intercepted passes late in the game. Both of them were in the fourth quarter. The others were made by line plunges and a beautifully executed forward pass attack. All right, so that's Philadelphia. That's the Inquirer. I got a couple more. What is this one here? This one's from the Pittsburgh point of view. The Pittsburgh Post. All right. American Grid champs badly beaten in post-season battle. Top team of Grange Loop outclassed by national rivals. Now, the Grange Loop was basically Grange, Red Grange. He played for the New York Yankees, right? Him and his manager, C.C. Pyle. They were able to form the AFL, which only lasted one season. They had the money. They could, fund a league. If the league made some money and was successful, they would have continued. But the AFL was pretty much a disaster trying to compete against the NFL, and they lost a lot of money. So the top team of the Grange Loop, when I mean the Grange Loop, was the AFL. And it was formed basically because of Red Grange and his manager, C.C. Powell, because they had money to fund a rival league. Jack McBride was the star of the game. The New York Giants, who finished third in the National League, beat the Philadelphia Quaker champions of the American League today by a score of 31-0 in a postseason game at the Polo Grounds. The game is played on a field of slush and mud with the removed snow piled up along the sidelines. There was about 5,000 persons in the stands. They had to laugh at some of the falls and the way the men plowed up muddy spaces on their noses or went down on the slippery spaces like fellows just learning how to skate. It says here, Cruez is stopped. He's part of the Quakers. The Quakers made exactly one first down in the entire game. Al Cruez, the old Penn back, and the war horse of the Quaker team did nothing. He was only in for a short time, but even so, he got nowhere. Neither did anyone else in the Quaker backfield for that matter, even though Coach Bob Thorwell sent in a complete new set of backs in the second half. It seemed incredible that this was the same team which defeated Grange's outfit twice in 1 week. The Giants simply played rings around them. Jack McBride, the battering ram from Syracuse of the Giants, did enough all by himself to have sent the Quakers home defeated. In the first period, he tried for a field goal from the 30-yard line and missed. He went from his own 49-yard line through tacklers who took him off his feet twice to stagger to a touchdown, which was disallowed because both teams had been offside. Then, after all the fruitless exercise, he kicked a field goal from placement from 25-yard line after Hinkie Haynes had splashed along for 20 yards with a forward pass. So the Giants, he tried a field goal from his 30, but he missed. So the Giants had two touchdowns called back in this game. 2 touchdowns called back. And he also missed a field goal as well, too. It's pretty clear to hear about interceptions when I was always told pre-Super Bowl wasn't passe. But here's a game in the 20s with multiple. Oh, yeah. Multiple. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of it, too, was back then you had to be at least 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage to throw a pass. And a lot of it, there were times back then where you couldn't throw the ball any more than like 20 yards past the line of scrimmage. So you couldn't just like send guys like deep. Just go 50 yards and I'll hit you deep. A lot of the passes had to be within 20 yards of the line of scrimmage. And also the ball, too. It was more like a basketball. That's why a lot of guys were able to drop kick the ball a lot, because it was a lot rounder. So they could drop it, it could bounce, and right after it bounced, they could kick it, because it was more shaped like a basketball than it was a football. As time went on, as the years, a few years went by, the ball got more football like it is today, which also made the drop kick harder. So then a lot of times they started putting the ball down for the guy to kick it. But there were a lot of drop kicks back then, because the ball was it was more rounder, which made it easy to drop kick, but also made it very hard to throw. Very hard to throw. And there was a lot of interceptions. A lot of like the stats that they had back then, they don't keep that stuff. The pass and the touchdowns and the interceptions and all of that, but there are a lot of interceptions were thrown. Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, then we have, let's see here. This is from the Times Union. Now this is from a New York paper as well too. This one's a little bit longer here. Battling Giants humble Quakers. Secret raw meat diet hinted as pro gritters down AL champs. Yeah, I'm not sure what that secret raw meat diet is, but as far as could be ascertained by the more curious of the 5,000 spectators at the Polo Grounds yesterday, the New York Football Giants, all but one collegians, had been on a secret diet of raw meat. It is probable that the directors of the club took the boys down to the garden in a body last week and had them initiated by Harry Stockelnich, whoever, the Belgian bike rider, who is the greatest exponent of the art now at large in the metropolitan district. But whether this was the case or not, the New York Football Giants, etc., have obtained it somewhere and in large quantities, and from all indications, they thrive on it. Only this very rare dish could have been made possible by the victory of these Giants over the Philadelphia Quakers yesterday. Whatever all that means, I have no idea. Only the most conservative would call it a victory at that. The score was 31-0. For be it known, and it probably is, that these Philadelphia Quakers won the American Football League pennant not so long ago by the apparently simple process of defeating Harold Red Grange's New York Yankees twice in 1 week. Now, what they're pointing out here was, I got to find this here on where the Quakers at here. There we go. Now, the Quakers, they played them. Actually, they played the Yankees. They played them twice in 3 days. They played them on Thanksgiving. The Philadelphia Quakers played the New York Yankees on Thanksgiving, November 25th, and they beat them 13-10 at Yankee Stadium. Then 2 days later, on Saturday, November 27th, they played them in Philadelphia. Now, remember, they had to play if the game was in Philadelphia, they had to play on Saturday because of the blue laws. They had blue laws in Philadelphia, which did not allow them to play football games on Saturday. They could apparently play baseball games on Sunday, but you couldn't play football games on Sunday. If you played a football game in the city of Philadelphia back in those 1925-26, it had to be on a Saturday. So the Philadelphia Quakers and the New York Yankees of the AFL basically battled it out head-to-head for the championship to see who would win. And they played 2 times within 3 days. They played Thursday, and then 2 days later on Saturday, they played each other. So I said the Quakers beat the Yankees 13-10 in the first game, and then they beat them 13-6 in the second game. So where we at here? So at the end of the season, right, the Quakers had a record of 8-2-0. The New York Yankees had a record of 10-5-0. Now, let's see. The Yankees lost those 2 games, which wound up being huge. I mean, the Yankees were trying to actually, if the Yankees could have beaten the Quakers 2 of those 2 games, The Yankees could have won. The Yankees probably would have been the champion of the league, but they lost them both. The Quakers finished with a record of 8-2-0. The Yankees were 10-5. The Cleveland Panthers, who are actually in third place, only played 5 games. They were 3-2. They played 5 games and they folded, but they had a winning percentage of .600. The Yankees had a winning percentage of .667, and the Philadelphia Quakers of the AFL, I'm talking about, had a winning percentage of .800. So they won the AFL championship. They were 8-2-0, and with a winning percentage of .800, they won the AFL championship. All right, so I got, whoops, on here. Oh, okay. Let's see where we are. And be it further known that the Giants finished in third for the national championship. Thus, it will be seen at a glance that raw meat is a better diet for football players by some 31 points than gruel and probably thin gruel. Whatever, once again, whatever the heck that means. The collegians and the non-collegian, who is Al Nesser, and one of the finest, played about as well as any team has ever played of a chilly afternoon on a wet and frozen field, or will ever play for that matter. This field was wet as well as frozen. It was featured by muddy puddles and sheets of ice. It was very hard in spots and very squishy in others. It was no place even for a professional to be. But the boys went to work at the start and accomplished a business-like job. When it was all over, it could be seen that the Philadelphia Quakers did not so much as want a return game. They had enough, and a lot of it. The Giants were a lustful lot, and they gave the Quakers far more football in this postseason game than did the Yankees in the 2 regular contests. Jack McBride, which is the same as saying the Giants did enough to win the game alone. But the other 10 helped some. So did Hinkie Haynes. So did Jack Haggerty, who contributed a no-good run back of a punt for 68 yards and a touchdown, which was no good because the kicker had been roughed. And so it went. So I said, so the Giants missed a field goal, and they had 2 touchdowns called back. So this really could have been, 31-0 back then was a big blowout, but it could have been even far worse than that. By actual count, McBride scored 19 of the Giants' points because he kicked 12. Yeah, because he scored 2 touchdowns, which is 12 points. He kicked the field goal, right, which made it 15 points, and then he kicked 4 extra points, which gave him 19 points. Now, interestingly, Jack McBride in college is very, very good. He was more known in well, he's very, very good back home, but in college he was known. He was a very good kicker. In 1924, Benkert of the Giants. Benkert, he was in college. 1925, he would play for the Giants, but Benkert led the college in scoring. He had 100 points. But think about that. He only had 100 points in 9 games, which is very impressive back then. McBride, I believe, was second in all of college in scoring. He had 90 points. Once again, it was like 8 or 9 games or so. But a lot of his points were field goals and extra points because of his kicking. McBride in 1924 led all of college football with, sounds silly, but it was the way it was back then. He had 11 successful field goal tries in 1924, which led all college football. Back then, that was a lot. Now you get guys who kick 20 to 30 field goals, like it's nothing. Also, nowadays, they're playing a lot more football games than they did back then as well, too. Back then, a lot of teams didn't play double-digit games. A lot of them was 8 games, 9 games, So McBride, Jack McBride of the Giants, he played, he was on the Giants in 1925. The original team is 1926 this year, but he was a very good kicker as far as field goals, extra points, and he was a very good, back as well too. As we saw, he's scored 2 touchdowns in this game. right? So, all right, what we got here? Is this it? All right. After missing a 30-yard field goal, so he actually could add even more points, but he missed a 30-yard field goal. He set out to earn his salary. From scrimmage, he struggled 50 yards to a touchdown in a run that could not have been much better on a good field. After he crossed the line, an alert official discovered that both teams had been offside, so the play came back. Nothing daunted, Jack proceeded to kick a goal from placement to give the New Yorkers a 3-0 lead at halftime. Another try for goal had failed. So apparently it sounds like he maybe had another field goal and possibly failed. Let's see. In the second half, the Syracuse star, McBride, went through the Quakers for 3 first downs, a touchdown, and an extra point in rapid succession. After Jack Haggerty had circled left end for another score, Jack kicked that point. He then intercepted a pass and skidded 35 yards to his second touchdown and kicked that point after as well. Otherwise, Jack did very little. The official score was 31-0. What it would have been without those alert officials is too terrible to think about. The Quakers, with the great Al Cruez in the starring role, although he did not play much, succeeded in bringing one glorious first down back to Philadelphia with them. So, I mean, that's the way a lot of football was back then. One first down. I memean, not the Giants, but the Quakers. So the Giants, thoroughly dominated this game. Without question. It just goes to show you, because the Quakers were the champions of the AFL. They had a record of 8-2-0. The Giants, finished a little ways down. They finished with a record of 8-4-1. But the Giants were a very good team, and it showed on this day with a record of 8-4-1. So this is the final game, all right, of the 1926 season for the Giants. They did the same thing, kind of like the 1925 season. They played back-to-back games against the Chicago Bears, right, to finish the season. They played December 6th and December 13th to finish the season in 1925. Then they went down to Florida and they played like 3 games after the season was over, on January 1st, January 9th, and January 16th of 1926. After the season was over, they played a few games. Right. Well, kind of same thing here. The Giants season finished and they played this one additional game afterwards. I mean, they don't do that nowadays. It's not like, the season doesn't end. The Giants finished the season this year with at a record of 6-11, and then they set up a couple exhibition games against the Atlanta Falcons or something. That don't happen. The season's over. The season's over. It ends, but that's not the way it was back then. Sometimes, they played a few extra games, right? Maybe they went to a different part of the country where maybe to try to get where people don't get a chance to see professional football. They said last season, after the 25 season, the Giants went down south to play in Florida. They were actually supposed to go and play a game in Alabama too, but the game got canceled because there wasn't enough. I think there wasn't enough players to play in the game, because all of them, I think, all went home. But they went down to Florida to play a few extra games, to see if football can maybe catch on someplace else, or to see if there's popularity in another part of the country. Because pretty much all football was played out like in Ohio and Illinois, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and New York. All up in the Northeast. Right, it wasn't much down south or out in the west or anything like that. So this was this final game of the New York Giants 1926 season. So 1925 they finished 8-4-0. 1926 they're 8-4-1, and then they had this one AFL NFL challenge, right, where they defeated the AFL champion Philadelphia Quakers by a score of 31-0. So my next videos I'm going to start the 1927 season, which you all know is the Giants' first championship season. So that's what happened on this date, December 12th, 1926, in New York football Giants history. I'll see you next time.